Kamal sir, this is a delight to come and have a
Thank
chat
you.
with you as always. Absolutely my pleasure. I want to start with an anecdote and perhaps give you an insight into a tidbit that I read. So in 1995, Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro worked in The Casino, one of their very famous films. They took a gap of almost 24 years and then they came back to make The Irishman. And in one of the conversations, somebody asked De Niro that, how does it feel to pick up the pieces? There is a gap of almost 2 decades. So he said, what pieces? There are no pieces. There are just conversations behind doors that you're not privy to. And we just continue to work. I want you to reflect on that chemistry because there are a lot of anecdotes and parallels that perhaps I could draw between you and Mani sirs.
Many artists, including Oscar Wilde, has been accused of plagiarism. So let me join the Great League and steal from Scorsese. He's right. Steal from Robert De Niro. They're right. So I'd like to place it, superimpose it exactly as the situation because they're not simply saying it for PR. It's what they feel. It's if they're talking about their exchange as two friends or similar idea, similar philosophy, maybe similar country. So all that made them great pals and they work together. It is not like Scorsese only likes Italian, but he understands it better.
Correct.
Because there's a phone call from Martin Scorsese where he speaks to Satyajit Ray on telephone. I think it is either reproduced by some other artist or maybe it's a conversation. But I think they've been faithful because it sounds like Mr. Ray and it sounds like Mr. Scorsese, a student in American Film Institute, talking to Ray after seeing Pather Panchali.
Wow. Such a beautiful anecdote to sort of share. Just as somebody who observes human beings, and for two people who perhaps think alike, I watched a conversation of yours recently where you said that you and Mani sir think alike. That's a phrase that you used. When two people decide to creatively make something, and when you come to a junction when perhaps you agree to disagree on certain calls that you take, whether it's technical, writing, how to do a scene. How does one navigate that? And how did you navigate that with Mani sir?
Since you have agreed to disagree, there's no surprise. And we know who'll steer the ship. But somebody has to be on the lookout and say, ahoy, land ahead. We don't know which one of us will be doing that. But it doesn't matter. To keep the ship afloat and moving forward and not let it rest. If worse comes to worse, if sails don't work, we'll ride triremes like the Carthaginians, start rowing. But we want our ship to move forward. That's all there is. That's all people who find similarities become a family. That's why monkeys, lions, tigers all gather together. They hunt similarly, they think similarly, their skills are similar. So why not hunt as a team? It starts from there. Then as we became intellectual, we started trading techniques, but that was not enough. To hone, you need a partner.
Correct.
And that we keep finding them.
And he's a beautiful partner to have. I mean, couldn't ask for better. Thug Life is coming at a point in time where Hollywood is scaling up cinema in terms of just the technical aspect. We speak about IMAX. We speak about what's the next thing that one can do in terms of joining the dots, giving us an experience which is beyond sight and sound. And you have a childlike mind when it comes to sort of navigating these things. You're always curious to learn, right? What's the one thing that you sort of learned on the set of this? Because I feel that if you have a journey like yours, you're constantly asking yourself, what next?
See, there's very little to learn for us, Mani and I, from Thug Life. We learn more from our mistakes.
How
This,
so? If you
we are very
explain that.
confident. And so there is, whatever we learned, we have put that into this film.
So it's course correction, perhaps, maybe.
I beg your pardon?
Is it course correction? Is it certain things that in the past you've like, okay, let's tweak this.
Yes, of
This
course.
time around, let's
we
do it.
learned more from our failures. If they didn't like it, we have done too many mistakes because they're willing to forgive us for little mistakes. If they totally reject a film made by me or Mr. Mani Ratnam, we have made too many mistakes because the idea they agree with. Somewhere they say this film is not as good as that. And then we learn. If hubris has not set in, you're ready to learn. That's what the Japanese call shoshin.
So then how does one tread the fine line between commerce and craft with so much of focus being, the spotlight is on commerce always. Numbers sometimes create more headlines than filmmaking and the craft. How have you navigated and sort of tread that finely?
You have to navigate it. People, philosophers, thinkers, always ran into the forest. Different ideology, they run into the forest. Be it an Axelite, they must come in to society to change it because the modern society allows that. In their times, they had to run away to the forest, become Maharishis or mendicants or whatever it is, to fully realize their ideas at least. If not act upon them, at least realize an idea, a theory that you come up with. You need to think, time to think. So nowhere except in Oxford, Edward de Bono, I don't think anywhere else in the world they are teaching thinking. They are, and Edward de Bono teaches thinking. So that is where we have come. So we have to come into society, take commerce into consideration because commerce comes from people and people have to be entertained because life is about playing it well.
It is.
Yeah. And that's why a small dialogue from Keith Ledger's Joker said, why so serious? Works so much with the people. We're getting to be too serious and losing the humor that Aristotle was talking about. The humors are missing.
There was a conversation happening about you and Appu Raja on social media a while ago where Peter Jackson, who's made Lord of the Rings, was talking about how VFX is almost making actors reticent and lazy now because you have a green screen and a chroma, you walk in, you have your coffee and there are dots behind you and you're reacting, right? But during Appu Raja, can you just talk to me about how did you manage to do that with so much finesse? I mean, the physical part of it. There are so many examples of your films where you've just taken that risk.
I'm trying to remember the French actor who inspired Chaplin to do one sequence in Limelight, not City Light, where his legs start shrinking, where that's a classic scene where Buster Keaton and Chaplin have appeared together in the climax of the film. Both are comedians.
In the same frame.
In the same frame. And there's the way they've done it is fantastic. The whole sequence is fantastic because he has renounced acting and he's come back to the stage. So Buster Keaton asks Chaplin. It's actually a conversation between Chaplin and Buster Keaton. But it looks like characters in a film. And he's powdering. I thought you hated powder. You're back to it again. Yeah, I hate the sight of blood, but I have it running in my veins. He does that. That's how the scene starts. And in the end of the scene, his legs start shrinking. And he has to pull it down like this, and this leg starts shrinking. And it's very believable. It's actually like a old radio aerial. It's shrinking like this. The fact is that he is wearing a fat pant, which gives him that you don't see. If he keeps his foot like this, the illusion is complete. You don't see the bend.
Correct.
So he has made it like a balloon, so you don't see the knee bending. That's where I got the idea from. And Appu was born. The father was Chaplin, the mother was me.
Love it. I mean, if you have parents like that, what could you ask for?
So Appu has great lineage. I'm fortunate to marry that idea.
Same goes for Pushpak. I mean, when we look at it,
Same
even
man.
kids today, when they watch Pushpak, they can't believe for the fact that somebody.
Same man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could call him Charlie Haasan. He could be my great-grandfather. I call Crazy Mohan, who was a writer with me, and I can still say it's not grammatically wrong to say he is a writer with me. He still writes with me because I think of him and I write lines and it sounds like him. So the Pushpak is from Chaplin's City Lights.
And Satyajit Ray gave a quote about Pushpak saying that for someone to create a romantic scene around a dead body is remarkable. Who would have thought that? That whole fact.
I must tell you a tidbit which is a lost opportunity by both Mr. Singeetam Srinivas Rao and me. We were on the very edge of contacting Mr. Satyajit Ray to do music for Pushpak.
Wow.
We missed it. We still regret it. But then market pressures, and we had to settle down and get the film done. But that would have taken us places. He would have advised us. And the fact that he didn't know this was happening out of earshot, and he mentions about Pushpak, is that it truly is a missed opportunity. He would have worked. He could have, is what we are thinking, but he would have worked because the way we hear him talk about that one scene in Pushpak, he would have liked it, and we missed an opportunity. And this industry is full of lost opportunities like that.
Wow. I mean, I'm just trying to reel in the fact that if that had happened.
That had happened. Oh, okay. I'm a film buff.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether Kamal Haasan is in it or not. He will be soon. Like it was one said of Oscar Wilde when he appreciated another writer and he said, "Wow, that's fantastic. I wish I had said that." For which the other writer said, "You will, Oscar, you will." That's a snide remark about what he was accused of, plagiarism.
Right.
But all great artists will be accused of plagiarism. All true artists will be accused of plagiarism. Because without another artist, a new artist cannot be born.
Yeah.
He will be born, but he'll be clumsy. He's not picking up from the other man's experience. Without communication, man will be still hunting in the forest with ancient weapons.
You know, I have to bring in a bit of the fact that, like I said, you always have this childlike ability to ask questions and learn. AI is something that you've taken interest in. There was a hologram recently of Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston at a live concert where they made holograms of them and they came on stage, and a lot of people were like, we don't need that. Like sometimes we just need to let people go when they've gone. It's tarnishing the legacy of these artists. AI is coming in a lot of places in filmmaking.
Yeah,
what do you look at?
I would never be satisfied with a digital kiss from a baby. I want a real baby. You understand?
Yeah.
I want a real woman to kiss. I want a real man to hold like that. A hologram won't do. I want to shake hands with Mani Ratnam. Who cares about a hologram of Mani Ratnam? It doesn't think like him. It's tweaked by somebody else. So what I have, I like the AI, but I'm not sure AI will like me because I'm dumb. Now I have to catch up, and then we'll see. Like the seas, one day we'll be riding AI. Like the space, one day we'll try to rule it.
Right. I want to quickly ask you 3 questions that have come in from your fans. They have asked a movie that you and Mani sir could have done together but didn't. Is there somewhat, like you talked about Lost Causes a while ago?
This is one of the lost opportunities. And we kept apologizing through all our interviews because we have no reason. We just cleverly said something like, time beat us, we were slow. That's not a good enough answer. Sorry is a good enough answer. We missed more than you people because you have other films, other great filmmakers like Mani. But in here, we are limited with a few. We'll have to dial around and work with this available talent. And it depends on which market puts more pressure on you. Anurag Kashyap coming out and saying, I'm going to live in Kerala, happened to me about 40 years back,
Right.
50 years back. And that will happen. That's a true full-fledged multitasking cinema man like Anurag Kashyap will feel that way. Every artist because everybody is going to become multitaskers. It is going to be, AI will hopefully democratize it. For me, knowledge is information.
Right. If Kamal Haasan was a thug for a day and he could steal something from Mani Ratnam, what would he steal?
I've done it. I don't have to. We both have stolen from each other and we're proud. We didn't even ask. Can I take it? No manners. We simply fell in love and took that idea. And that's how ideas should be. Who can covet an idea and say it's mine? If not me, somebody else will think. He may not be in a vantage position to execute it like Mani Saab or me. But maybe they are thinking like that for the past 40 years and they've never tried to come into cinema at all. Thank you. For you. They will be overcrowded with too many, then hubris will set in. I think we are okay. Isolated, we still feel comfortable with a few people. I think don't confuse it with caste.
Right.
Or class. It's got nothing to do with it. It's universal. Chaplin works in my native place called Paramakudi, and he works in New York. In the Columbus Circle, I still admire the thing. I've seen only Hitler stand with that much of crowd. And they were organized. I'm sure there's somebody who would have organized it, at least the police, traffic police.
Yeah.
But it's unbelievable. There are at least 3 to 4 lakhs standing on all the 3 corners of Columbus Circle.
As I wrap this chat, and for anybody who's going to be watching this, like I said, just to sit and watch your conversations in itself is absolutely stellar to hear these things and get this information. Anybody who's a budding director, actor, the current generation, what's the one thing you would want to tell them? Like, you want to, maybe somebody's really struggling or wants to break through. What's the one thing today's youth
If
need
you're
to
talking
do?
about a budding actor,
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to the mirror. Nobody is a complete actor. So I'll talk to the budding actor, watch your mirror, practice. And if you're convinced, they'll be convinced. If you're not convinced, you can be sure they may not be convinced. Then a Rahman will have to come in, then a stunt master will have to come in, then a dance director will have to come in. And there'll be no close-ups in the film because you can't maintain that close-up. To act in a close-up, I learned midway through my career. And midway through my career, I said, very beautifully said by Ben Kingsley, where he said, if you want to act, do it in the audition. Because the director has some idea, satisfy him. But don't lie to the camera. Because it doesn't want an audition. It wants a character. So if you have to convince the director, convince him with whatever tools you have. But then when it comes to the heat of the battle, you can decide and he'll agree. That's what I perceived from what he said.
Wow. I think from Scorsese to Chaplin to almost Oscar Wilde, we sort of had a great conversation, and I think that's what makes you and your legacy of work so interesting. Is there's this constant sense of learning for us, and like you said, you're always on the learning course. So thank you very much for this wonderful chat.